Welcome to Education Today's September podcast. I am Pia and today's topic is teacher wellbeing. Wellbeing, a noun meaning a state of being comfortable, healthy or happy. But how does this transpire into the classrooms of Australia today? To answer this question and others, I'm joined by Sienna Mill, Grade 5 teacher at Carlton North Primary School, and Juniper Taylor, Education Minister for Australia. Ladies, today a hot topic within education circles is the idea of teacher wellbeing. For years we have focused on student-centred learning, student results, and how to help our students become global citizens. Now the attention is slowly shifting to how teachers impact the classroom and how a healthy and happy teacher can create a better learning space for our students. Naturally, this point makes sense. If you have a sad teacher, the students will be unmotivated and unwilling to be engaged in learning. Sienna, let's start with you. What factors do you believe influence teacher wellbeing in today's world?
Yeah, well, teaching is one of the most stressful careers in the world, so there are so many factors that influence the well-being. School factors, including working conditions, organisational factors, the lack of resources and accountability, administrative support, and just the overall school culture. If it's lacking or inadequate, it impacts your entire job. Community factors, so if there's a lot of pressure on teachers to perform and if you're being bad-mouthed, and there's a lot of stereotypes over teaching work hours, and the holidays are received, and a lot of the time teachers put in a lot more than what they're paid for. Constant pedagogical changes that are happening, it's hard to keep up. It's also an outcome-based education system, so the children are being ranked depending on these prescribed outcomes, which a lot of the time don't consider the individual student and their levels, and if they perform badly in exams, it's reflected badly upon the teacher. So there are a lot of personal factors as well, and time management and feeling the pressure. Teachers are exhausted most of the time, so it's hard to deal with discipline and behaviour management, and it's just hard to keep on top of things. So yeah.
So that's great that you say that caring can affect your wellness, but isn't this something that teachers themselves should be looking after?
Yeah, of course. Your own wellness is your own responsibility. So in every career, most of the time you don't have support available. However, in most careers, you're not looking after 30 individual children. So your own health and well-being and mental stability impacts the child's development and academic performance, and your own mental stability affects the environment that you create in your classrooms. So yeah, it's highly dependent. Plus the rising rates of teachers' breakdowns and illnesses and suicide just show that there's a lack of support in general for teachers.
So Juniper, listening to this, as the Education Minister for this country, you have a very detached role to the school classrooms. What do you believe influences teacher wellbeing?
Well, I believe the same factors as Sienna stated, like skill factors, so classroom management, etc., and community factors and the environment that school is placed in. And also, class sizes are continually getting smaller, creating an environment where it's easier to manage and promote learning. And so it's continually getting easier for teachers to manage their well-being. Technology is continually improving, making teachers' jobs easier, enabling them to focus more on the students and themselves rather than reinventing the wheel each time they write a lesson. Teaching today is obviously more collaborative profession than ever before. Previously, teachers were in charge of their own individual classes, plan their own lessons, take charge of that class from 9 to 3, where today it's a lot more discussion is had about what should be taught, and the teacher's role is shared between other teachers, and so it's not up to that one individual teacher to manage everything. Obviously, teacher wellbeing has always been an important issue in the school community, but with today's resources, their job is only getting easier.
That's all well and good. Sienna, you say caring too much and the pressures placed on teachers burn them out with few systems in place, while the government say we already have adequate supports. There have been many studies, including the Wellbeing Survey from 2011, that have indicated that teacher wellbeing directly influences student learning. Can one teacher affect students' learning that much, or are we being melodramatic here?
I think teacher wellbeing influences students tremendously. I mean, think back of any effective teacher you've had in your past. They've changed how you learn, they care, they help you pursue certain avenues, career paths. They create who you are in this day and age. They strive to create the gentle, caring environment. And if a teacher has mental health issues, it makes or is anxious or depressed or is dealing with insomnia or taking specific medication or even on the border or risk of committing suicide, they can't create a fun, stimulating, exciting environment. They can't care about another student if they're too busy caring about themselves and their issues. Like, they just can't see what's happening in their classrooms. So, and students who have had a low-performing teacher or one that doesn't care, that affects their learning not just in that present year but for future years to come.
I absolutely believe that a teacher can affect a student's learning, but if that is the sole interaction the student receives from the teacher, as education continues to evolve, collaborative open classrooms are becoming more popular. So this allows for the teachers to support each other. There's often 2 to 3 learning spaces with 2 to 3 teachers with an aide most of the time as well, and they're able to share the workload, collaborate ideas, share teaching time. And then if a teacher isn't feeling too well that day or is a bit not having an off day, they can take a step back, they can be more of the help, they don't actually have to do the teaching time, and it takes the pressure off the teacher. So they're not teaching 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. anymore. They might actually only have one class to teach that day, and it allows them to focus more on themselves on the days that they need to. And it's also a preventative way for teacher fatigue and poor teacher wellbeing by enabling teachers to share the load with other teachers around them and collaborate together.
So we know that there are 3 key aspects to teacher wellbeing. These include feeling valued and cared for, feeling overloaded, and job enjoyment. We've talked about all these as well as the causes and effects of overall teacher wellbeing. But what is actually happening in our classrooms today? Do we have supports, or is this just another political strategy?
I feel like there's a slight lack of support for teachers. I mean, there's rental subsidies available and a reasonably high level of pay that teachers are lured into, and holiday pay, but teachers put a lot more in than what they pay for, and you can't claim visits to a psychologist. You don't have access to health. Even looking online, trying to find something for health resources available, it's very, very difficult for teachers. There just needs to be an adequate support of health available and what teachers can access within the community in their immediate environment.
I believe teachers certainly do have the support, and it's only going to increase and develop. Teachers have paid planning days with the curriculum that is already written for them. Teacher unions are always there to support them, provide personal development days, professional development, and also provide knowledge on the teacher's rights and the educator's rights. Teachers have access to paid mental health days, and they're continually inundated with resources, so allowing them easy access to information, creating a supportive framework for educators to work within. Most schools today have a safe haven in the staff room where anything mentioned is strictly confidential. It's usually quite open, where teachers are able to talk to their colleagues or senior staff about issues they may be having. And there are endless resources available. Many non-for-profit organisations, TED Talks, seminars, professional development days, personal development days, and specifically, like, a starting point would be Wellbeing Australia. Lastly, as teaching education is becoming more global and a much more collaborative career, it continues to develop and create supportive learning environments for students and teachers. But I believe ultimately it's up to the teacher to seek out support when they need it.
So then, Sienna, what innovative strategies for teacher wellbeing do you recommend? Being in the classroom, you must have some ideas about what you and many other teachers need.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the professional planning days do help tremendously, but I guess just an investment into personal and professional development, so time management, anger management, just within yourself, pre-service training, voice training, just being able to mind power, relaxation, in order just to help with just early career development as well. So especially with the first 3 years of being a new teacher, just having a mentor there working with you one-on-one to help you with the government policies, report writing, just to work your way through until you feel prepared, as beginning teachers struggle severely, and that's if you enter the school on an off foot, you might just never gain a balance throughout the teaching career.
So Juniper, anything to add?
Yeah, I completely agree with the mentor system. I think that would be really beneficial to teachers. Obviously, they do it for preps and year sixes and whatnot, and it continues throughout life. You always have a mentor program. Nurses have a mentor program, and so for educators, I think that would be absolutely beneficial. But yeah, it's been great. It's been a really good discussion this evening, and I believe education is heading in the right direction, benefiting teachers through the collaborative approach that we're aiming for. And yeah, obviously no system is a sound system, but it's good to have a discussion about it. Thanks for having me, Pia. And Fiona.
Thanks, Pia.
So there it is, people. Two lovely ladies stating their case in relation to teacher wellbeing. As you can see, it's a very complex but important aspect to education today. Tune in to next week's podcast as we interview 2 teenagers, students trying to pass their VCE in juvenile detention. Until then, keep smiling.
Lesson 1. Basic HIP. Basic to HIP is the